Cool. I was at the press conference for Jazora Pulev a couple of weeks ago. Fabio Wardley was there. He was speaking about, obviously he is close with Dillian Whyte. He's managed by Dillian Whyte, and he was basically saying Dillian Whyte is in Portugal, back in Portugal training now, whether that's in a training camp or just he's there living and doing some training. I'm not quite sure. However, I think it's clear that Dillian Whyte wants to return to the ring, and so that fight against Fury was in April. Maybe could he come back in November, December time? Maybe. Could it be more like March, April next year? Maybe. However, he's in Portugal and he is not he doesn't sound like he's just kind of lounging around getting fat. I think he is staying in shape. Wanted to get your opinion on what you think would be a good comeback fight for Dillian Whyte. He's in his mid-30s now. He's lost fights before. And yeah, obviously he's not going to come against, a Deontay Wilder in his next fight. I think that's something like that's unrealistic. But can you give me kind of a name or two of fights you would like to see him in against?
Yeah, of course. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because he seems to be on everyone's mind for one reason or another. I think it's because he's in such a good position. But I think at his age and everything that's happened in his career, I think his next step or two is going to be very, very important. Personally, I would give him a top 20 to come back from. But before I would do that, if I was advising Dillian Whyte, now, I'm a Matchroom Eddie Hearn fan. I always have been, although some things irritate me. But if I was advising Dillian Whyte, I would tell him to go with Frank Warren. And the reason I would do that is because I would get a warm-up fight, but a fight that's going to test him a little bit, and then go for Dubois for the WBA regular. I know it's not a highly regarded, legit, people don't see it as a legit world champion because there already is a WBA champion, but I'm pretty sure, see, if you've got that WBA regular, down the line, that automatically means that you need to get a shot at the full version, doesn't it? So sign with Frank Warren, have a warm-up, and then take Dubois. I think that makes sense. It gets him right back in the picture, and it's a winnable fight. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the route that I would go down personally.
Yeah, I'm not against that. I think that although he lost against Fury, there are positives there in the sense that as you say, he is a big name. It's heavyweight division, still a stacked division. Obviously, you've got this Usyk Joshua triangle, which might last for however long. But outside of that, there are so many big fights he could make. I like that the Whyte Dubois. I think Dubois is now in a position where he can't go backwards. Yeah, I don't think he wants to. Dubois has been around. He's still young, but he's been around for a little bit of time now. And I like that fight. I think that would be a massive fight next year if that can be made. Want to ask, one fight that was across my mind was Luis Ortiz and Andy Ruiz are fighting each other in September. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I just think that if he's Dillian Whyte, I think he's had kind of social media words with Andy Ruiz in the past. I think he could beat Luis Ortiz, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts on him fighting the winner? Maybe having a warm-up fight November, December time, and then fighting the winner of that fight next year.
Yeah, that's good. That's why it's always good to speak to another boxing guy, because you know what, Elliot, that didn't even come into my mind. It didn't even cross my mind. I think that's a really good move, because the way that we need to look at it, so say Andy Ruiz wins that fight, Dillian Whyte then fights a guy who's beat Joshua before. That's the way it's going to be built. I was quite confident that Andy Ruiz would probably blow Luis Ortiz away, maybe mid-fight. But I can't get out of my head that I seen him hurt against Chris Arreola. And that's bothered me since I seen it, because I always thought Andy Ruiz's biggest attribute was he was really tough. Even when Joshua put him down, he didn't look hurt. I mean, he was on his bum, but he got up and dusted himself off. His legs were okay. If that fight happens and Andy Ruiz comes through it, I think that's a good fight for him. But if I was advising Dillian Whyte, I would tell him to box Andy Ruiz, box him on the back foot and let him chase him, because that's the best way to to beat him. Joshua showed the blueprint now. So, yeah, I think that's a really good fight to get him in contention as well. And to be honest, he probably doesn't need a world title to be relevant. If he just beats one of these big names, then I think that. So, what's your thoughts? Do you think that it could beat Andy Ruiz if, say, for example, he comes through Luis Ortiz? I asked you that on purpose because I know what's happening.
Yeah, no, I think it's a tricky one. It partly depends how Whyte can come back, because it was such a bad, the way the Fury fight ended, it was just such a bad KO for him, and how he's reacting to that. I would favor Ruiz if I had to give you an answer. But Ruiz hasn't been active. Ruiz hasn't been active, and Dillian Whyte just suffered a bad KO loss, so it is tricky. So, but at the moment, I would say I would favor Ruiz.
That's a good shout. It's a good shout. What I was going to say there, while you were talking, and it just registered to me as well. It's 3 uppercuts that he's been stopped with, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is something in that, but I think get back with Tibbs.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Best, but if that happens, I don't. In Portugal, I would say it's highly doubtful, but I think he should. That seems to be where he's best.
Was he? I could be wrong here. Wasn't he undefeated under Mark Tibbs?
Yes, apart from, was Mark Tibbs in the corner when he fought Povetkin?
No.
So his last loss before that was Anthony Joshua. So he would have been, he would have.
Because he had Jonathan Banks in his corner, I believe, for the Joshua fight.
It's because when that whole happened in round 2.
That's how I remember. Yeah. And look, I don't know, man. I know that there's someone in our group who's not a massive fan of Dillian Whyte, but I hope he's watching this. But look, Dillian Whyte, credit where credit's due. Bashed Povetkin up in the rematch. Has beat Joseph Parker. Faced Lucas Brown when he was undefeated and knocked him out horribly. That was a knockout of the year contender when he did that. Not saying Lucas Brown's a fantastic fighter, but that was one hell of a punch. Dillian Whyte is 100% a top 10, still arguably a top 5 fighter. And if you take that Usyk, Joshua, Fury triangle out of there, I think he's still got a good shout for as being the 4th best. And I include Deontay Wilder in that. I think Deontay Wilder would probably beat him, but I wouldn't rule Whyte out against him. He is still a top fighter. I don't care what Elliot Griggs says.
Get out there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm calling him out. But all right, cool.